One-shot snipers are back in Warzone 2, but they're more challenging than ever. The new explosive rounds that have been added to one-shot snipers make one-shot snipers some of the most challenging we've had in Warzone to date, forcing you to compensate for bullet velocity, the bullet drop, and also how you aim and lead your targets way more than anything we've had before. I really like this system, and I think it makes it much more balanced and a little bit more like PUBG in terms of sniping, and I appreciate that, because if the snipers were as good as they were in Warzone 1, ultimately I think it would change the meta in a very, very bad way, and it would be far too easy to kill opponents with snipers. But with these changes come lots of questions about which snipers you should be using, why you should be using them, and which one I'm going to recommend for you today. And in the background, you'll see me playing with the MCPR explosive rounds in massive resurgence. So if you enjoy this information or you find it useful, consider dropping a like on this video and help us reach 1,000 likes. So to start with, there are 3 snipers for one-shot sniper rifles: the Intervention or FJX Imperium, the MCPR 300, and the Victus XMR. And your choice of sniper rifle is going to heavily depend on what it is that you're trying to do. If you're trying to hit targets under 50 meters or under 100 meters, there is one answer, and there is a certain sniper you should use. But if you're trying to be a sniper that's useful for all ranges, then the answer is very different. The biggest driving factor for one-shot sniper rifles is that they all have to use explosive rounds, which cuts 400 or so meters a second worth of velocity, which normally equates to around about 40% of the overall velocity of the sniper rifle just disappearing. And the problem that poses is that you're then left to compensate for the loss of bullet velocity with all the attachments, and those attachments tend to incur penalties in terms of the speed of the sniper rifle, making them slower to aim down sight, slower to reload, slower to pick up or drop down when you're switching weapons, and generally speaking, transforms them into heavy snipers to some extent. And the problem with going with a speedy sniper rifle using a 3.5x or 4x scope is that unless you intend on using it instantaneously for extremely quick headshots in extremely small windows, chances are you're going to be beaten by most assault rifles, most LMGs, or most medium-range weapons generally, unless you're using a piece of cover that you're moving in and out of very rapidly. I don't think close-range sniping in this game, or using one with a 3 or 4x optic, is worth your time, because I think you'll end up making the same success rate with something like an assault rifle or LMG over those ranges, and you would probably get a similar time to kills without relying on a single shot, and a skill shot in particular, because you will have to hit the head. So whilst I don't recommend it, if you want the fastest close-range sniper rifle build, that is the FJX Imperium, and you will be using the Intervention, but there are lots of drawbacks to that. It's got the slowest reload out of all of them, it's got the slowest rechamber time out of all of them, and despite having the fastest ADS speed and general mobility, it just doesn't really do very well in terms of velocity over range. So the FJX Imperium is effectively a sub 100 meter boomstick, and if you want to build it, effectively you're going to be maximizing velocity with as many attachments as possible, and then using the rest for speed. So for this intervention build, you would want the Nil Sound 90 suppressor, the Fahrenheit 29-inch barrel, the VLK 7mW laser, the 408 explosive rounds, and then a short-range optic of your choice to really maximize the overall ADS speed, something in the range of 3 to 5x. But if you want the best sniper overall, the answer in my opinion is a lot more clearer, and that is the MCPR 300. On screen right now are all of the statistics that relate to these sniper rifles, and all of them have been built for the best possible velocity whilst maintaining the best amount of mobility, whilst also maintaining the ability to one-shot. It's a hell of a triangle to balance, because you're balancing speed with velocity with one-shotting, and they all incur different penalties. And these builds, which are the meta builds so to speak for one-shots over range, are what you get. And whilst the FJX Imperium does excel in terms of fire rate and in terms of velocity ever so slightly, and in terms of ADS speed ever so slightly, it isn't good enough in terms of the middle of the road. The reload time is the longest, the rechambering time is the longest, the time to drop the weapon and raise the weapon is one of the longest as well, and it only has 5 rounds. Now the reason I recommend the MCPR 300 is that the differences between it and the FJX Imperium are fairly minor, but the bonuses are fairly major. So for example, it has a slightly slower rate of fire to the FJX Imperium or Intervention, a slightly slower bullet velocity, but it has 10 rounds instead of 5, and it reloads faster, and it empty reloads faster, it rechambers faster, and there's only a 20 odd millisecond difference in terms of aim down sight speed. And it compensates as well by also being faster to exit aim down sight as well. You can also drop the weapon for an SMG or an assault rifle in your secondary slot faster than the Intervention, and it does have a longer raise time, but honestly, I don't think that makes a huge difference in terms of using things like fast hands, which are kind of a necessity for one-shot snipers anyway. You're going to lose a very minor amount of mobility for a very large amount of firepower, and in my view, this is absolutely worth doing, because it doesn't matter how good a sniper rifle you are in this game, and I'd like to consider myself as definitely up there in the ranking of things, you're going to miss shots. And you're going to need some shots to inform you about the future shots that you should make. So with a 10-round magazine, if you miss one shot because you aimed too low, or you didn't lead enough for the shot if they were moving, then you've still got 9 or 8 more to go in order to make that land. But with a 5-round magazine on the Intervention, you don't have that option. And if you're sniping multiple targets or playing in squads, then you end up in these messy situations where you could have a squad of 3 or 4 who are in the same area, and you've already missed one shot because you just got something wrong, whether that's lead or drop, and then you have to make 4 perfect shots in order to get those downs or kills. And I don't think that's worthwhile. With a 10-round mag and an MCPR, despite some of the trade-offs, not only can you down opponents, you can down multiple of them, and you can even finish some of them and still have ammunition to spare. And because of the explosive ammo making the bullet travel really slowly and drop quite heavily, you need those extra bullets to not only zero in on your targets, but also land the critical shots that will get those kills and finishes further on. But if you've only got 5 rounds and you're spending 4.5 seconds reloading, I don't think that's a good trade-off to make. You can see from the gameplay that I'm still very much learning my snipers and learning how to get used to the drop of the sniper and how much I need to lead my targets to make the shots, but I have 10 bullets to do so. And even when I have zeroed this down to a T and I'm hitting shots left, right, and center, the amount of firepower I'm being given, 10 bullets with a reload of 4.3 seconds, is substantially more than 5 bullets with a reload of 4.5 seconds on the Intervention. Now you may be wondering why I've not mentioned the Victus much. The Victus is kind of just a worse version of the Intervention, to be brutally honest with you, and it doesn't really shine in any given category beyond mobility, where it's one of the fastest to switch in and out of. But I just don't think as a sniper it really poses the benefits that you would want compared to something like the MCPR or Intervention. So for me, the answer is super clear. If you want to be a speed sniper at close range, which I honestly don't recommend, then the Intervention is the way to go. But if you want the best sniper overall, it's the MCPR 300 without a doubt, because it has really clean optics, it's got decent mobility, good velocity, good fire rates, and most critically, when you're going to be missing lots of shots in terms of drop and lead time, a 10-round magazine, which doesn't make it substantially slower than the others. There is only a 20 millisecond difference between the aim down sight speed on the Intervention and the MCPR, despite the Intervention having half the mag size. So that's my suggestion to you. I've been using the MCPR for about a week now, and honestly I'm almost there. I'm still learning in some situations how much I need to account for things, and how much I need to lead my shots, and just getting better overall, but you can really see it with the MCPR 300. That extra breathing room for those rounds, the general feel of the weapon, I think the build that I have on screen right now is really the best way to go. Now, a lot of people would argue with the MCPR 300 that you shouldn't use the Cronen Lion stock and get faster aim down sight speed, but I would disagree. When you're rechambering this gun and when you're compensating for weapon sway, it's not really ideal to do follow-up shots in quick succession, and that applies to the Victus and the Intervention as well. The Cronen Lion stock effectively allows you to hit really fast follow-up shots after rechambering because the amount of sway is substantially decreased, which is why this build, I think, is absolutely perfect. Now, I'm sure lots of other content creators will have different takes on this, and they're more than welcome to, but as somebody who is known as an avid sniper in Warzone 1, and definitely somebody who thinks of their snipers quite in detail, I would really recommend what I've shown you today with the MCPR 300. And the statistics are there on screen for you as well. If you look at some of the differences, they're very minor, but some of the bonuses can be very major. So that's my suggestion to you. But more importantly, if you do end up disagreeing with me and you try something else, stick with it. The purpose of this video is to, in my opinion, give you the best statistical advantage in terms of a weapon, which I think is the MCPR 300. But if you decide that you just prefer the feel of the intervention, for example, then stay with it. Because the difficulty of these snipers is the low velocity and the amount of bullet drop. And if you can learn those things progressively and really nail them down and really get good at it, you will be a fantastic sniper regardless of your choice. As always, folks, I hope you found this video useful and interesting. If you did, drop a like please, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.